time again, come gather round. We're here to share insights, lift you off the ground. We're culture and wellness, and harmony they flow, helping you thrive, that's how we grow. Every other Monday, we bring you cheer. Simon, Ashley, and Felipe are dear. Strong, the team's pride, it is ahead, building a workplace where passion is spread. Tune in, lean in, it's a brand new height. Healthy, happy, let's make it right. Mental clarity, physical strength, so true.
Everyone, I have an announcement.
For you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Workplace Wellness Hour, Season 3. We're happy to be here. Suman and I are so excited to be continuing the series of the mental health series at work. This is part 2. We're going to be tackling managing mental health with chronic conditions, which I know is something that Sumana is very passionate about. But before we get started, Sumana, how are you? How have you been?
I am well, happy to be here. I cannot believe that it's almost the end of May and we're still in mental health and stress. Well, last month was mental health month. This month has been all about stress awareness. So we're doing a lot of that stress conversation. And honestly, Felipe, you and I talk about stress so much that I think this is a good time to continue talking about it, but also bring to light some of those the bigger complications that come from stress. So I'm really excited and welcome everybody. Really happy to see everyone here. I know it's a holiday in the United States. Is that right, Felipe? Is it a day off on Monday?
It is Memorial Day. And we are remembering all those that were veterans and that were unfortunately passed away, but did a lot to sacrifice themselves saving or fighting for this country. So that was a very poor description of Memorial Day, but yeah, so today is Memorial Day. We are off. It is a holiday. And it's so great to see people in the chat. William, thank you for coming. Jackie, always wonderful to see you. Kimberly, nice to see you. It's been a while. Dr. Marcia, great to see you. Kenny, how are you, my friend? Roy, it's always wonderful to see you. Roy's watching from the future. It's always love to see people from Australia. And who else did I miss here? Oh, Jay, welcome, Jay, and Gregory. Great, it's been a while, Gregory. Great to see you. And Leslie Flowers. Oh, I just caught the end of your show today, Leslie, but it was a wonderful topic. So I think the topic is very relevant, Sumana. Stress obviously is a huge thing for all of us, and this is something that whether you are a entrepreneur, you are working remotely, you're working on site, working hybrid, you are not free from getting exposed to this. The stress can impact you regardless. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Nick and Charles. So we got a full house today, y'all. I'm going to try to do something here. I'm going to take off this picture here. If I see, I can do this well, and put the overlay. There we go. That way people can see who's in the chat. But yeah, so this topic here I think has been really important for us. We talked about it last time, but we want to take it to the next level because obviously if you don't address your health, mentally and physical, it can turn into a chronic condition that you have to deal with for the rest of your life for a long-term period. But before we dive into the topic, let's do some introductions, Sumana. So, and then tell us your initial thoughts about this topic and why it was so important to you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, before I even do that, I just want to also acknowledge that Ashley is not here again, and that's okay. We love her, and we are waiting for her to come back. We have, just so folks know, there's just 2 more episodes of season 3 left in June, and then we do take a summer break in July and August, and Ashley will be back in September. So we miss Ashley, but we know she's taking care of herself. She's taking care of her health and her well-being, which is more important than anything else. I just posted even a Instagram or a TikTok about it, saying that the most important thing is your health. So we appreciate when people tell us that we want to take some time off, and that's totally okay. I've had to do that. Felipe has never done that yet, but I know when the time comes, he will, and we will run the show when Felipe is not around.
So, I want to quickly say about Ashley because Swan and I just chatted with Ashley this past week, and she definitely misses everyone. She did send out her best, and it's something that like Swan said, we all have to listen to ourselves, and we need that time to be with ourselves or with loved ones. Listen to yourself. It's important because if you don't take that opportunity, it will pass you by. But back to you.
Yes, no, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Mana Jetty. We've been doing Workplace Wellness Hour for about 3 years now, which is super cool. I'm the founder and CEO of Jetty Wellness, where we design evidence-based workplace solutions for businesses. I love working with businesses, particularly universities is where my client base is now coming from the most because of the evidence-based solutions that we provide. And beyond that, I also am on LinkedIn a lot. I have the ambassador program as well, where we bring in passionate workplace wellness individuals who want to share research and spread the word and awareness on the content that Jetty Wellness writes every month, which is monthly blogs. And I love being here every other Monday night with Felipe, and I hope to continue this show into season 4 and into season 5 and more and beyond that. And happy to have Felipe here. Felipe, why don't you tell us something a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, thank you, Samana. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Felipe Cofino. I'm a passionate HR executive working at PRB nonprofit, and I also am a career coach and a LinkedIn enthusiast. Recently named LinkedIn Top Voice. I bring that up not to brag, but because they could take it away at any point in time. So I might as well mention I have it while I have it. But I take it seriously because I think Samana and we continually try to increase the level of quality that we provide you all because we want to make sure that what you all are getting here is something that's tangible or helpful, even if it's a little bit and it helps only one of you. We feel like we made an impact. So thank you all so much for, first of all, coming here and being here. The chat's blowing up, you all. I appreciate it. Copper's doing great. Kenny, I hope your feelings aren't hurt that William didn't mention you. I guess I don't know. And Charles, it's always great to see you, mi amigo, as well. But listen, so outside of that, I am a proud father of 2 plus a foster son, and I've been very, very fortunate. This first half of the year, there was a lot of drama, a lot of serious issues, health problems. This last couple of months, it's been nice to celebrate my daughter's, engagement. My son just graduated this past Thursday. I just posted about that, and so I share that with you all because we have to live in those moments and be present. Because just like that, something stressful can happen and take away that joy or that moment. So make sure that you are present and remember that. So with that being said, so Swan and I are going to talk for just about maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most. And we want to invite you all up. I will put the chat or the link in the chat shortly. So just hang in there shortly and we will definitely give that opportunity because we want to hear from all of you and make sure that you share your insights, your questions, or your experiences. Now, the first thing I want you all to do, since the chat is blowing up, is I want to start off with something here. This right here. These words, tell me if any of these words resonate. Which one have you seen someone deal with or struggle with, or maybe you've dealt with it yourself? Or which one just resonates the most because you've just been around it? Is it burnout? Is it stress? Is it fatigue, absenteeism, accommodation, resilience, depression, anxiety, presenteeism, and productivity? So do me a favor, in the chat, let me know which word resonates the most with you. Which is the one that you worry the most about, that you deal with the most, that you have a loved one that struggles with it. Because I think if you really think about it, there's at least one that I know that I've dealt with, if not more. There are people that have dealt with so many multiple ones, and sometimes it's cascading. One leads into another, that leads into another. Being stressed out can lead to being burned out, to being getting anxiety and depression that results in absenteeism, not being productive or present, needing accommodations. So you can see how it can definitely start steamrolling or snowballing. Sorry. So I'm seeing in the comments burnout, stress, resilience. Um, Resilience is a powerful word because I want people to realize that sometimes we feel like we have to be so resilient that we can't take a moment for ourselves. And that's, and you gotta remember resilience is it's like being sustainable. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be sustainable and you'll lose that ability to be resilient. So great word, Jay. Um, so I love that everyone's got a little bit different experience. Now, real quick, we mentioned earlier, it is Happy Memorial Day here in the US, remembering those that fought for our country. I want to take a quick moment to recognize my amazing father in law, God rest his soul. He is a veteran of the war, and he actually died about 10 years ago. But he had gotten something in his blood called Agent Orange. This was a chemical that was used in the war that would destroy foliage and crops out there. The reason I'm sharing this with you because obviously this affected him as well as a lot of other people during wartime. The different chemicals they may have used. Well, there's one thing that was not on this list that I showed you earlier that didn't come up that I think that I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up, especially because it doesn't impact veterans out there globally, not just U.S. veterans, is this one here, PTSD. And this one here, I think, is something that we talk about triggers so often, you all, that we know that we all have triggers, but sometimes we have to ask that question, why do I have this trigger? What is the reason for the trigger? And if you dig deep enough, you might find the root cause might end up being because you have some PTSD about a certain uh, experience you had. And so it's something I think that there's a lot to look into that. But I want to stop there real quick. Simona, what are your thoughts about these words, about PTSD?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I actually do like all of the comments. And the one thing I do want to say before we even start the conversation is just to get, set the stage and have a clear understanding. And I'm sure all of you do, but a good reminder is not a bad thing, but just a good understanding of what is stress versus what is anxiety. I know sometimes we use those words interchangeably. I know in the comment section, I put anxiety, but I also would have probably picked stress as well. But then stress is something that's a reaction, right? So we have to remember that stress is what's happening to you. It's like some kind of an external pressure, and this is why we're talking about chronic diseases, because stress can typically go away once we deal with it. However, if we don't deal with it, that's when it becomes chronic stress. And then we'll talk about what that does to our body. And then that leads to chronic diseases and things like that. Let's not get into that right now. But anxiety is more just, what's happening inside of you. And it's not really like an external thing. It's more just internal. It's kind of like, it's just there. It's like we feel like there's no clear reason as to why we feel threatened. We're kind of in this panic state, even though we don't want to be in this panic state, but we're kind of feeling fear. And that's how I kind of understand the two. One is like, what is externally that's causing me that stress, and usually I know how to deal with it. But anxiety, I feel like I have to deal with it a completely different way, and those strategies are a little bit different. So I just wanted to kind of get those definitions clear. And of course, we know what burnout is, and I'm not really going to get into the depression and PTSD. Like, I don't really have a lot of clear definitions on that, but those are more psychological terms and conditions that we've talked about a lot in the show. But of course, if people are dealing with it, I'm sure they'll know more about it. So Felipe, I just wanted to make sure that people understand that those are two different things. In terms of what you've shared, it's true. I think a lot of us who are dealing with chronic in a state of chronic stress, or which can lead to burnout, and which can lead to other conditions that can occur, which are physiological as well as psychological, and that can also impact our work environment. I think one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this particular topic is because of the impact of all of this that we have on the screen that we're seeing: absenteeism, presenteeism. I think what's not there as well is, I think, the cost and we can talk about that a little bit later, but the cost of managing these diseases from the employer's perspective and also the employee's perspective is one that I think maybe we can talk about a little bit later. But you're right, a lot of this happens, and we see this, kind of sneak into our workplaces. And I'd like to know from the folks who are listening, how much of this is now preventing you from doing your work, your 9 to 5, your entrepreneurship, maybe a mix of both. That would be something I'd like to see in the comment section as well. I'll pass it back to you, Felipe. I know you have more things to show us.
No, and I love what you shared. You wouldn't be the data scientist that you are if you didn't share that educational side of it, because they are very different. And because they do blend in together, sometimes people think they're the same. Now, I did put a link in the chat for you all to join us in a few minutes. We still have a little bit more to go over, but I wanted to recognize some things that people had said in here, because Charles, you made a comment here that you talked about the accommodations. As an autistic and a disabled survivor, accommodation is essential. And I wanted to highlight that because in the workplace, at least here in the US, I'm curious about in other countries, Canada, let me know how it is there. But we have laws that require employers to provide reasonable accommodations for people that might have a disability or need a certain accommodation for mental disability or physical disability. And it's something that people a lot of times are afraid to ask. Now, the word reasonable is key because, for example, I always gave the example when I used to work in the hotel industry. If somebody wanted to work at the front desk and say they were in a wheelchair, it would not be reasonable for us to just destroy the front desk and make it a lower entire front desk because it was made out of marble. It was very expensive. That wasn't necessarily reasonable. But creating a station for them to check people in on the other side of the desk in the lobby, absolutely reasonable. So there has to be some obligational intent there, but there has to be some realistic, financial impact that is not too much of a ask of the employer. So I wanted to share that because people need to feel comfortable asking. Just make sure that you're asking for the right thing. Do the right research. Feel free to DM me and ask a question if you want to figure out the right way to phrase it. Ask ChatGPT even. So there's a lot of things around accommodations. I'm glad you brought that up. And then wanted to also welcome Brenda Leese. Thank you for coming. So Charles, we'll get to this question here about what would if an employee curled up in a ball and started crying, how would you handle it? Unfortunately, I've had to deal with that on more than one occasion. We'll get to that. But Kenny, you're talking about frustration here. So you kind of said here that frustration dealing with generations of peeps who think so differently than I do. And you know what? That is a reality. We are dealing with a lot of different mentalities, but it also is something that when it comes to mental health, I give kudos to the younger generations. They're doing better than we did. And they're normalizing the conversation. They're making it more of a priority. So we're going in the right direction, you all. So real quick, I wanted to show you a few things and we'll continue on and invite you all up. So here, Simona, can you hit mute?
Sorry.
That's right. All right. So real quick, here are some stats I wanted to share on behalf of Simona and Ashley and I. The data came from stress.org, CDC, the World Health Organization, OSHA, which is the workers' comp kind of safety and health areas in the workplace, and AOTA. So real quick, some data that is relevant here. Chronic conditions, approximately 60% of US adults live with at least one chronic health condition. All right, that's a lot. 60%, 6 out of 10 people. Things like heart disease, diabetes, mood disorders. And then mental health in 2021, 14.7% of US adults reported frequent mental distress, defined as experiencing poor mental health for 14 or more days in the past month. So half the month they were dealing with mental stress. Now that's 14.7%. That's not a huge percentage, but it's significant. And then here, health risk, chronic workplace stress is associated with increased risk of heart disease, hypertension, and other health issues. Hypertension can lead to so many other problems, so don't take that lightly. And then long working hours, burnout. Working 55 or more hours per week is linked to 35% higher risk of stroke and 17% higher risk of dying from heart disease. Okay, That's why there's a 40-hour work week, you all. But here's the thing: people need to make it a change. At where I work, PRB, when I started working there, and they said they have a 35-hour work week, I didn't really believe it at first, but to see it go into practice, and it doesn't mean that everyone works exactly 35 hours. Sometimes they're able to work less. Sometimes they have to work more. They balance it out. But when you have the expectation at a level that is manageable, you're setting people up for success. Um, the last part here is just the economic and productivity costs. Okay, lost productivity globally estimates 12 billion working days are lost. 12 billion working days are lost annually due to depression and anxiety, costing the global economy approximately $1 trillion each year. If any of you are accountants, analysts, business, professionals, you would say that's something that we need to take care of. We're bleeding there. We need to address this financial loss. Why we aren't doing that as much as we should is the question. And then absenteeism, we talk about that all the time, but that costs $2 billion each year. So $1 trillion for productivity and $2 billion for absenteeism. That's a lot of money, y'all. Imagine if we invested that money into mental health training and services. So, thoughts about those stats there, my friend?
These are similar to what I mean, my country is a lot smaller than your country, but I think these are very similar to what I'm seeing or here in Canada as well. There's lots of people, almost half of the Canadians that are 12 years or older have at least one major chronic condition. I remember talking about this, Felipe, when we had our not mental health, but our workplace wellness summit on Clubhouse. And those numbers were, have not really shifted that much. That not only do we have a lot of Canadians with one chronic condition, but there's nearly 1 in 12 Canadians have 3 or more. So this is multi-morbidity. So we're having arthritis, lots of high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, anxiety, depression, heart disease, stroke. Like people are having it. And when I think about 12 years and older, I'm like, 12 years is very young for people. If I see a 12-year-old kid with a chronic condition, I would feel really sad. At my age right now, I have, a couple of chronic conditions, and I'm like, oh, okay. I've had many good years of not having to deal with it, but now I do. But when I see children who have 12 years and older having to deal with diabetes or high blood pressure and anxiety, so the statistic, that doesn't really surprise me very much, which is shocking. But what I would probably also want to mention is the cost of, and I don't know if the numbers you showed were the cost to, I guess it was cost to the country, but I would be curious to know the cost to, and I had mentioned this earlier, the cost to the person. One of the things with burnout, because it's a state of chronic stress, it can lead to chronic diseases, and then now you're stuck with it because you get it forever. And when that happens, one thing which I've shared in Workplace Wellness Hour before is the benefits that you tend to use. You get say $2,000 of health spending dollars, and then all the other health spending benefits that you get from your employer. A lot of us with chronic conditions will end up using all of those benefits kind of midway through the year, and now there's out of pocket expenses that we're spending to get us through the remainder of the year. I remember having that cycle more than once. I mean, I had my health spending account, so I could lean on that for a couple of months. But then after those 8 months are gone, you still have about 4 months of having to spend out of pocket expenses, which I physically didn't know how much that was until I put those numbers in my spreadsheet, and I put those numbers in to be like, how much money am I actually spending out of my pocket? Because I've maxed out all of my benefits, and all of the stress that I'm dealing with actually comes from the workplace. So why am I having to spend my salary now to basically manage the diseases that I got because of work? Felipe, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I know we refer to people and say, we tell people go to your EAP and and deal with it. So when we're talking about chronic conditions and managing that in your workplace, sure, you have aches and pains, and I know lots of people who show up and say they're chronically cold, or they chronically have pain, or they have issues with mobility, for example, or eyesight, for example, but they still come to work and they deal with it. But what we're not talking about when we're in after we leave the work environment is the cost of, for example, even glasses. Some of us need very special contact lenses and glasses because now we have chronic inflammation in our eyes, or pain in my hands, and I need a special type of mouse, or I need to go to physio three times a week to deal with this. I only have 20 sessions of physio. I've maxed those out, so I'm paying out of pocket now. So I'd love to hear from people, how are they managing these conditions now because of stress that they are basically getting from work? I'll stop there.
Well, I love that you brought that up, and we are going to bring people up. As a reminder that we are doing audio only, so cameras don't need to be turned on. So if you have cameras on, go ahead and turn them off when you join us on stage. I put the link in the comments, so feel free to come up because we have about 35 minutes left in the show. But and do me a favor, repost this to your network so that they know that we're going on live and they can join and hopefully benefit from the discussion, or maybe they like to add to the discussion. But to your point, Sumana, the cost to the organization, that's something that people realize, very early on, how expensive claims are to an organization. And when they increase, it costs both the employee and the organization more money. Now, good wellness programs that actually are well implemented, have a good incentive, and are led by leadership and meant to be inclusive, those are the ones that are successful. I've been in places that did it horrible, and only the people that were into their health already participated. And I've seen it worsen well. And the impact has been 7 people quitting smoking within 1 year, 5 people losing over 100 pounds, 2 people no longer being diabetic, 1 person getting off their high blood pressure medication, 7 people avoiding surgeries because they caught things early. Those are significant costs to the organization if they were not done properly or caught early. And so when I've been able to show how our claims have gone down year over year and how we've actually had our increases reduced or been flat to our employees and to the organization because of how we manage these claims. Now, I'd be remiss, and if there's anybody who's at HR would bring this up, you can't control claims, and they're absolutely right. You can't control when someone has a stroke or a heart attack or when someone needs an operation. But you can minimize it by catching it early, encouraging people to check on their health, and reducing the things that cause them to have these stressful medical needs. And that's the impact. When I can show it a financial impact on paper, that's when the CEOs and CFOs wake up. It shouldn't take that, but that's what it takes. So real quick, before we bring Charles, who's in the green room, and a few people up, I just want to knock out a quick version of Fluid Base 5. These are just 5 key points for people to remember when dealing with mental health or mental stress and chronic health conditions, okay? We'll go through these pretty quickly, but first, it's chronic, not cracked. I'm not broken. I'm just dealing with some stuff right now, basically. People are not broken just because they have a chronic health condition or they're dealing with mental stress. Many high performers, employees live with chronic conditions. Assuming they are less capable, it can lead to missed opportunities, disengagement, or even legal issues tied to discrimination. So it's something that we have to be very careful and make sure that we're addressing it with not just low performers, but high performers, because they're more likely to maybe hide it because they're afraid. Number 2, flexibility is not a favor. It's future-focused leadership, you all, in action. So providing a flexible work environment is going to help attract and retain talent, and it's going to help people manage their stress better. Number 3, don't diagnose me. Just ask me what I need, and maybe bring some snacks. Leaders aren't doctors, and neither are Sumana and I. We're not here to provide you medical professional information. If you need professional help, seek that out. But making assumptions about someone's condition, that can create mistrust or a legal risk. So instead of asking about So instead, asking about support shows respect and builds trust and fosters the psychological safety that you want in that workplace. All right. Number four here, let people share without turning it into a TED talk. People shouldn't feel like they need to make a grand reveal to justify accommodations. Like I said earlier, they should be able to do it, not be afraid. And when it's disclosed, it's low pressure, it's normal, and it's not made to be a big deal. So it helps with the honesty and support and the trust. Sometimes we just need to listen. All right. And number five, and last one is recognize the skill set, not just a survival story. People are not looking for pity. They're not looking for you to feel sorry for them. Focusing on someone's challenges can be unintentionally patronizing. So true inclusion means recognizing the contributions and impact they're making, not just the adversity that they're overcoming. Focus on what the skills that they bring to the table, their strengths. That's what's going to be good for the company. And honestly, that's going to help them feel empowered and help them feel confident and help them deal with the mental health stress a little bit better. So I went through those fairly quickly, Sumana. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are about that or any questions. Oh, sorry. Let me get back to this here. And over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Felipe. I love your Felipe's Five. And yeah, thank you for folks who are, listening to us, because as you know, we do put out our monthly Workplace Wellness Hour blog with all of Felipe's key messages and some of the key messages shared from the audience, and also any science or information that I'm sharing. So if you felt like that went by really fast, and if you don't want to go back and listen to the replay, in about a week or so, we typically post the monthly blog with the key messages, and all of Felipe's Five will be clearly linked to that blog post as well, that Hannah Anise, who's one of our ambassadors, she writes them every month. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're looking to read some other blogs from previous shows, they're also available on our website, which I can post a link there in just a moment. I don't have really much else to add. I do want to hear from other people who are entering our chat here, our live here. For me, just from personal experience and having spoken to a lot of people who are chronically dealing with so much workplace related stress, it's inflammation, which ends up causing a lot of mental and physical conditions. And I guess my biggest key message that I want to share here is for you to be aware that, is this something that is just a low grade inflammation? Am I just having stress here because this is a important short event that I'm dealing with and this is going to go away? Or is this something that's, chronically, I've been dealing with this for like several months, and now I'm physically feeling like pain, and I have to go to the doctor, and my expenses are going up, for example. So keep an eye on what this is. And if you are getting chronic diseases and have been diagnosed with this, remember that this is a forever thing, and this is ongoing, and there's no way to reverse it. That is the one thing I heard from my doctor, who said to me, you can never reverse this. This is something you have to deal with for the rest of your life. And that was very, very scary. So maybe later on in the show, and if you have a couple of minutes, I will talk a little bit about some strategies. But for now, I appreciate the Felipe's Five, and I would love to hear from the folks who are joining us.
So Charles, welcome to the stage. It's been a while, my friend. I don't know if you're still in South America or if you're here in the States, but please let us know your share or your question. The mic is yours.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a while since we've been on stage together. I just wanted to share three quick things. One, we're all developing new technologies on here, but want to encourage you and everyone, when you're using audio and or visual, to make sure that it has closed captioning. This may have it, but with my limited tech skills, I'm not sure how to engage it if it has closed captioning. Then also wanted to touch on two things regarding work. One, while having absent employees is a problem, if employees are sick, especially if they are contagious, please tell them before they are sick to stay home, because let's say we all of us in here, we're working at the same place. If I show up with COVID, norovirus, or whatever, I can potentially shut down the company for several days by coming in and giving it to all of you. So please, if you're sick, especially if you think you're contagious, stay home and have your employees feel safe staying home. Final thought is, as people have physical and mental health issues, and we need to be accommodating. And obviously, some reveal is needed, but then don't make a big deal where you have to reveal everything and go through all kinds of processes. Just be like, hey, I have a hard time hearing or whatever, and then create accommodations.
Well, thank you, Charles. I love those points that you brought up. There is closed captions, just so you know. So whether you're watching it on YouTube or on LinkedIn, the closed captions are available. Sometimes you have to turn them off or on, but it is something that it is available. So we're grateful for that. And to your point about if you're sick, I will say the one positive thing that may have come out from the whole pandemic is that people are much more comfortable calling in sick now if they're not feeling well, and people understand the risks of putting other people at risk of getting sick. So I think that's an important point you brought up. I do think that we are doing a much better job of it nowadays than we used to. So Samana, your thoughts on that? And again, for those of you in the chat, feel free to join us on stage. I'm going to put the link in there again. But Samana, your thoughts on Charles's share?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I mean, we don't talk about infectious diseases a lot, but I think our conversation today was on more like the chronic disease component. But I like the reminder, Charles. Chronic stress can typically, and this is literature. Like if you have chronic stress, it can affect your and disrupt your immune system functioning. So it's very normal. And this happened to me when I was chronically stressed. I would get sick a lot. I would get lots of cold and just feeling very fatigued and just not in my element, just getting a fever every now and then, or like a sore throat. And that's quite typical of it's an indicator, it's a marker that perhaps you are you have some level of chronic stress now that is higher than the low grade systemic inflammation that we were talking about earlier. So yes, of course, stay home when you're sick. But what I would like to maybe, again, the key message here is pay attention to, am I getting sick a lot? Is that normal for me? Or do I only get sick once or twice a year? And why am I getting sick a lot? And am I getting sick a lot from all these colds and coughs because of the stress that I'm getting from home? And is my immune system dysregulated? And what can I do now to prevent that? And that's from the employee's perspective. And from the manager's side, I would say pay attention to that employee who is showing up to work or not showing up to work, calling in sick. Why are they calling in sick? I talk about these kind of subtle symptoms that we tend to miss out from high productive, high performing employees, is when they are very good, have amazing amazing data to show up to work, and then all of a sudden they're showing up or not showing up to work at all. There's lots of absenteeism and there's this dysregularity. Why is that? So from the manager side and from the employer side, I'd say keep an eye on that person. Why are they sick a lot now? They never were sick before that. So that's a really good reminder that yes, you should stay home if you are sick, but the caveats being, why are you sick? What is the cause for it? And for both the employee and the manager to recognize that and use that as a almost as a signal to prevent things from worsening. That's all I have to say for that, Felipe.
Well, thank you. And and Charles, thank you for bringing that point up, because I think it was helpful. And Kenny, I'm so happy that you are fortunate never to get sick. I hope you didn't jinx yourself by saying that. But it is something that, I'm being so laid back. It's important that we address it, that we talk about it, that we make sure that we are aware of what other people are doing. Just like Simona said, when leaders are not in tune to what their employees are doing, you're missing out on an opportunity to help them not only take care of their own self, but also be a better employee and more focused. I just did a survey, and one of the questions about belonging on the survey that I did for our team had to do with leadership's responsibility around belonging. And a fairly new supervisor is like, well, why is that leadership's responsibility? And he sent me this in a DM, and I sat there and I thought about it for a while, and I got back to him and I let him know, you know what? If a leader has the ability to make someone feel isolated, then they have the obligation to make someone feel included and have a sense of belonging. And I think that when we realize that as leadership, because you have the power to create stress, that you should have the same power to reduce stress. And that is part of the responsibility. It comes with leadership. And if you don't like that responsibility, maybe you shouldn't be in leadership. And I hate to be that bold and blunt, but if you're in it just for the money and the title, you're in it for the wrong reasons. With that responsibility comes a lot of work, a lot of care, and a lot of time. If that's not what you want, that's okay. It isn't for everybody. But if it is, make sure you go into it with your eyes wide open. So with that being said, we've got about 17 or 18 minutes left until the end of the show, you all. And we have our next guest up on stage. Jay, how are you, my friend? Happy Memorial Day. Hope you're doing well. What did you want to share, or what questions do you have? The mic is yours. Oh, Jay's having some technical difficulties, but he'll come back.
I was going to ask you, Felipe, to maybe can we answer one of those questions that someone had asked about what do you do to an employee that's curled up?
Yes.
Yeah, let's answer that question. Can't remember the exact
going back
question.
to the question that Charles asked, let me just see if I can pull it up here real quickly. But Charles asked, what do you do when you have an employee that's curled up and crying? Wait, where is it? It was right here. Here you go. And so, how do you handle that? Well, as a leader, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you respect that person's privacy. And so making sure that people are not crowding around to say, oh, what's wrong? First of all, tell people to go back to work or go take a break, give the person some space. And secondly, it's about just, and it sounds so simple, but if they're on the floor crying, get on the floor with them. Get on the floor with them and just ask them, what's wrong? What are you feeling? What happened? Figure out what the cause is and just give them the space to talk and be patient. Wait and be patient. And sometimes that employee just needs to go home because they are dealing with something. They just got some bad news, or just they had that final straw that broke the camel's back, and they just need that mental health day, and they need it now. But other times, they just had a moment that just was overwhelming, and they just needed a moment to let it all out. Sometimes it's going out for a walk. Sometimes it's screaming into a pillow. Sometimes it's crying, whatever that looks like. But when employees obviously in distress, that's not time to add more stress to them. That's time to let them get it out and figure out what is it that they need. Do they need to go home? Do they need to go see a doctor? Or can they just need a moment to gather themselves to get back to work? So that's my initial thought there. Simona, while I bring William up, what are your thoughts about that question?
No, I mean, you answered it like 100%, 10 out of 10. I don't have much else to add here. I think
you got 10
out of 10 for that one. No, the only thing I'd say is just, use your emotional intelligence skills, like understand, what's going on with them in a compassionate way. Figure out, is there anything you can do to support them? Sometimes they just want, like you said, they want you to sit and do nothing, and that's okay. And if there's no medical emergency, if you don't have to call 911, if that's not the case, then maybe the best thing to do is just provide them the support that they're looking for. And a lot of folks who feel that vulnerable to do that in an environment, that they're hurting. So I would say use all of your EQ skills in these moments, and don't try to be their therapist. Don't try to be, their friend if you're not their friend, but at least try to be human. Be human and give them, the support that they need, and work it out that way.
All right. Well, Swena, I put the next question for us to address, but we'll address that after we hear from our next guest up here, William. Thank you for joining us. It's great to see you. Swena, I don't know if you had a chance to meet William, but I think you two would get along famously if you have not met yet. But William, please tell us your story or your questions. The mic is yours.
I think I have a couple of things that I want to address. Um, the first thing is my generation, and me being a startup guy. I'm used to doing 16 hours a day, uh, 7 days a week. When I transferred that into a role where I actually work for someone else, there was an expectation that you're not a clock watcher. You don't work a 40-hour work week. The owners of the company would call you at 10 o'clock at night to ask you something that they can ask you in the morning, or send you in an email. Employers expect for you to be on call 24/7. So when you say that you have a company that you work with that's a 35-hour work week, God bless you. I think that's fantastic. I believe that this new generation is creating clear boundaries on what they will and will not accept. But I do think that if you're of a particular age, you're conditioned to work longer hours and to be available. Um, the other thing I want to say is that I suffer from anxiety, and one of the problems with suffering from anxiety is that it's not uh, prevalent until it happens. So, I'm functional, I'm fine, everything is great, but when I tell someone I need to step away, um, I need to step away. And I have to understand my triggers, and I don't have to step away a lot. But when it comes on, a it's not apparent to the people that are looking at me, because I can mask it very well. But my insides feel like they're about to explode from the inside out.
Well, that was a great share, and I can definitely relate to that. But I want to go back to your original point, because, oh, sorry, I'm writing down a note here. Is with the working hours in our generation, I absolutely agree with you. I have a 35-hour work week. The reality is, do I work 35 hours? Most of the time, I don't, not because I have to, because I want to.
Right, me too.
And that's the difference, is that now, if I'm caught up with my work, which is not always often, but when I do, that extra time, I can focus on things that I love, like spending time with my family, doing things on LinkedIn, going out with my dog. And that's the beautiful thing about the stress, is that when you can do things that you enjoy and you have time for yourself, that helps reduce that stress. And the anxiety, you nail it on the head. It's not something that you can plan for. You can't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to have an anxiety attack around 12 noon today, so I'm going to take a long lunch." Okay, it doesn't work.
Right.
Right? But if any of you all deal with anxiety, I will say, if you're not listening to Mel Robbins out there, check out Mel Robbins. She does a great podcast. She has great insight, and I've learned a lot about anxiety from her that has helped me, even after I thought I've been managing it pretty damn well lately. So, the great person to listen to. But the issue of how you managed it, like the story you just told about when you had to walk away, there was a great, I wish I knew what station it was, but there was a news station, and I saw it on YouTube clip, where the weatherman was doing their weather report, and you could tell that there was something happening to the weatherman as he was talking, and he looked over to the two people at the anchor desk. He's, "I'm sorry, I'm actually having anxiety attack right now, or panic attack. I need to step away. I'll be back shortly. The co-host, without a beat, they're like, we understand you. This is something that happens to a lot of people out there. If you're someone who deals with this, you know what's happening, and he'll be right back. In the meantime, let's talk about this issue. And they just kept on going. 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, the guy came back. He thanked everybody. It was the most normalized example I'd ever seen of someone showing the courage to say what was really happening to them and show people how you can't control it, and sometimes you need to walk away and let it pass, and you can come back. And that was something that was powerful. And I think it is up to us to manage it. It is up to us to do it. But when management and leadership understands why we have to walk away, that's the power that goes a long way. That's what gives us the ability to normalize the conversation and feel psychologically safe, is that people understand why. They may understand what's happening, but they understand why we need to do what we need to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's great that this new generation is normalizing mental health, because my my mother would lock me in a closet, right? Or not literally, figuratively. It's something that you weren't supposed to talk about. And stepping away is my how I deal with that moment. It gives me a sense of clarity, and it allows me to breathe and to get away from whatever is triggering me in that moment.
I love that. And I think, Kenny, I think we speak for both of us that you do not contribute to anyone's anxiety. Kenny may contribute to people's anxiety, but Kenny doesn't.
Yeah, the triggers are oftentimes subliminal. You don't even realize that your mind has just attached something from your past to what's going on in your present.
And, and,
So,
and that word triggers is something I think people, they use it very loosely sometimes. Um,
right.
Triggers are issues, not your all's issues, y'all. If you have a trigger, it's something that you manage and you have to deal with. Communicating it to people, that's great, but be careful not to use it as an excuse for poor behavior. That's where I've caught some people. Well, you triggered me. Okay, that doesn't mean you need to be nasty about it. Okay, and there's a way to communicate it, saying, you know what, that's triggering. I need to step away. It gives me anxiety. I respect that, but I've seen people like prevent others from being able, or shutting people down because, no, what you say is triggering. Stop talking. Hey, hold on, they didn't even finish their thought. You don't even know what they're going to say. So I do caution people not to use it and weaponize it, because that's dangerous.
Absolutely, and as I end, because Kenny says I talk too much. I will say I never use the word trigger when I'm speaking to other people. It's something that I use to describe what just happened to me when I'm explaining it. And normally I just walk away, because if I'm already triggered, if I'm verbalize it, it's not going to make it any better. It's not going to make it any better. It's just going to escalate how I'm feeling inside.
Yeah, and I want to give it to Samaya to share her thoughts. The last thing I want to say is, one of the things that Mel Robbins shared that I thought was one of the more powerful things was, I used to say, I have anxiety, I'm anxious, and instead of making it our identity, it's identifying what is making us anxious. So I'm anxious about speaking to this crowd, or I'm anxious about this meeting today. Once you identify what the thing or item that you're anxious about, it it kind of takes away the power of the anxiety.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I love that. And this point here that Jay made, I think sometimes that we're afraid to say no to a task that impacts our chronic conditions. We're afraid that our job will be in jeopardy. And that's a real fear, you all. People are afraid. And that's where trust in leadership is huge. And those accommodations are huge, to have them documented so that you don't feel scared to ask for it. Once it's documented, it's there, and it's accepted. But it's something that you have to have that trust. And leaders, you need to open that door and build that trust. It's on leadership to start building the trust, because you're in a position of power and you have the ability to make someone afraid that they could lose their job. So since you have that power, it's up to you to make them feel comfortable. So, Sumana, your thoughts?
Oh, thank you so much. This was a wonderful discussion. I loved everything, William, that you shared. Mel Robbins, I'm a huge fan. Love the book. The other person I also really love is Susan David, and she talks a lot about very similar things that Mel does, which is about just using the right language to describe your emotions. So just like you said, Felipe, like I'm having anxiety versus I'm noticing that I'm having anxiety because of, right? Complete that sentence. Like, what is it that's causing you anxiety? I did love the comment about the generational differences that kind of alludes to what Jay mentioned as well. I mean, it is quite normal that the older generation is a bit more private and selective about how much they want to disclose to their managers about their chronic conditions, whether it's anxiety or whether it's something more physical. I've heard, HR folks who I typically work with say to me that, yeah, there's a lot of employees that will disclose when they feel that they have that support from leadership. They will disclose that they have a chronic condition, especially those, for example, like gastrointestinal one, skin conditions where they have flare-ups, that they autoimmune diseases where you can get a flare-up out of the blue. It could just be that you have stress now, you have joint pain, you have some kind of an eczema or a rash or pain in your body, and these flare-ups can last for a couple of days to maybe several weeks. And there's employees who will disclose that to their managers and get that accommodation, William, that you were speaking about, because they feel like I have that safety and they are not going to be stigmatized as being a difficult employee. But that again comes from, I say this in my line of work, I say it comes from that individual awareness, the group level support, do my team support me, the leader support, the L part of the igloo, and then the organizational environment and the culture. Are we making it open enough to discuss mental and chronic health conditions at work so that we can promote well-being for everybody, starting from the culture of the workplace? Is that okay? And you're right, the Gen Zs have become the most, I mean, millennials are very good as well. We are becoming more transparent and asking for those accommodations. I've been very lucky. We had that conversation about flexible work hours, I think a few months ago, and we talked about how flexibility is a need that we are saying that if that need is not met, a lot of people will leave if they feel like they're not being heard, they're not being supported, they're not being welcomed in the company culture. And plus, I need this for my performance, I need this for my productivity, I need this for my well-being. So a lot of millennials and Gen Zs are more open to speaking up, and they will leave if they think that this is not the right culture for me. So it is that individual, group, leader, and organizational level systemic changes that need to occur at all levels, but it does start from the individual feeling safe enough to speak for that mental health or chronic health condition that could impact their work. And maybe they can just do their work from home, but they don't feel so comfortable coming into the office with a flare up, for example, and that could be very hard. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, William.
And just want to, you brought up so many great points there, and I think this next generation is doing it much better than we are. Not only that, they are not putting up with it. If you look in Google the average tenure of people in jobs nowadays, the average tenure is 2 to 3 years, where 20 years ago the average tenure was probably closer to 10 or 15 years. One of the major contributing factors is having a workplace where they feel that there's trust, psychological safety, opportunity to grow, and opportunity to speak up safely and speak up about topics that in the past weren't always discussed in the workplace. So we have 1 minute left. Gregory, you are coming in at the last minute of the race here, my friend. So the last minute is yours to share your question or your insight. The mic is yours.
Thank you for me having the mic. Long time no see. This will be on my time stamped in the central time zone. 19, it's in 24-hour time. 1957-24. Jay's comments, quote, "One thing I fear is AI will play a role in employment, and he puts in brackets, as humans will be unable to work." I will say to Jay, don't worry about it. In the words of Rhea Ripley, no worries. because I'm very uberly confident in this, because I will tie it into something that just basically came down the pipe on my time feed this morning. The Workday lawsuit, and I will say that AI will never ever replace human employees, and we will still have a place within society. And you could basically certify that very much so, unequivocally, undisputedly, because of what's going on with Workday, because I think that would be the quote unquote breaking point in terms of treating normal humans with common decency and respect, per se. So that's my 5 cents, and I'm sticking to it in regards to that nature. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Greg. We appreciate that. And I think that, a lot of people out there always appreciate the insight. I'm surprised you did not make any sport references really too much this time. But I will say that we always appreciate you coming up here and sharing your valuable insight, because
This is a uber serious issue. I don't want to devalue it with sports punditry and insight and all that type of jazzy stuff. So this is really serious and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for giving Jay that wonderful feedback. And Sumana, any last thoughts about Gregory share before we wrap up?
No, I don't have much to share. I know I want to be mindful of the time. We're allocated 1 hour. Gregory, thank you so much for popping in, and everybody else who popped in as well. Thank you.
All right, you all. Well, listen, we are wrapping up here, and we are going to be back in 2 weeks for another new series, and it's going to be our last series, y'all. So we're going to take a summer break, like Sumana mentioned. We're going to go ahead and hopefully get some well-deserved time to re-energize, rejuvenate, and have some fun. But before we wrap up, Sumana, what do you have coming up? And please tell people where they can find you.
What do we have coming up? We release a blog every month. So we have actually 3 blogs on 3 Wednesdays of every month. The first Wednesday is a blog that I write, which would be a workplace wellness strategy or a topic that I think is relevant for the month. And then the following Wednesday after that, the second Wednesday of the month, Hannah publishes the Workplace Wellness Hour key messages. So that comes out. And then the third Wednesday of the month, we publish a leadership blog that is written by Jason Roeder, who is also our Jetty Wellness ambassador. So 3 blogs come up every month. So June will start on June, the first Wednesday of June. And then every Wednesday after that, we have a blog. That's about it. There's really nothing coming up on my side. It's been really busy work-wise. So I've just been focused on getting things done for my clients. So no LinkedIn Live besides these ones. And I'm really looking forward to doing our last 2 sessions in June. And then, like Felipe said, we will take a break and come back in September. Over to you, Felipe.
All right. Well, I'm excited. And if you have not checked out Jetty Wellness, scan the QR code and you can check out those blogs. I know somebody, I think Jay was asking where the blogs were. Scan this QR code and you'll see them there.
Yes.
And with that, for me, what I have coming up, obviously, some quick reminder for those of you ever looking for HR services, career coaching, or recruiting, feel free to reach out to me through Cofino Consulting. I'm happy to provide the services for individuals, small companies, and medium-sized companies. And if you all wouldn't mind, do me a favor. If you have a minute to follow me on and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I am trying to grow this YouTube channel. It is where we house all the shows that we do here on the Workplace Wellness Hour. There is a Workplace Wellness Hour playlist, as well as a playlist for the other shows I do, Social Saturday Chat, Careers, Chaos, and Coaching. So check it out and feel free to subscribe to that channel. With that being said, I will be having next Saturday, we'll have our Social Saturday Chat with the Social Saturday Chat crew, and it's our monthly networking event. So come join us for that. It's a great chance to network and meet fascinating people. And after that, we'll have Careers, Chaos, and Coaching that following Sunday. And then I'll be back with Sumana in 2 weeks. So if you have any topics, as always, you would like us to cover, feel free to DM us and let us know. Otherwise, we will be sending out some information about the upcoming show. And thank you to everyone who joined us. We really appreciate everyone who came in here and just was engaged and just asking great questions. So thank you to Aminat, thank you to Kenny and Noni and Jay and Gregory and Meryl and Annie and Melissa and Jackie and Mr. M and everyone else that joined us. We really appreciate you all, and we hope that you come back. And let us know in the chat, what was your biggest takeaway from today? What did you learn? What was the takeaway? What are you going to put into practice? And hopefully you found something of value. With that being said, Samana, my friend, it's always a pleasure to be spend an hour with you. And I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday or Monday.
Monday. Thank you so much, Felipe. Always a pleasure. Wonderful show. And I hope I will see you in 2 weeks. I love doing this, and I hope you have a relaxing Monday. I know you have a day off, so have a great Monday and back to work on Tuesday. Take care.
All right. You too, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
It's time again, come gather round. We're here to share insights, lift you off the ground. With culture and wellness and harmony they flow, helping you thrive, that's how we grow. Every other Monday we bring you cheer. Samantha, Ashley, and Felipe are near. Strong, the team's bright, it is ahead, building a workplace where passion is spread. Tune in, meet it, it's a brand new height. Healthy, happy, let's make it right. Mental clarity, physical strength, so true.
Everyone, I have an announcement.